Hello, this is Claus Jensen presenting a game from the Chinese Chess Championships. I haven't done any chess analysis videos for quite some time now, mainly because I've started a new job, but also because I've spent some time preparing for the next cycle of the Correspondence World Chess Championships. I have qualified for a preliminary round and of course I want to give such a tournament some attention. But this game was played in round 1 of the Chinese Championships. The game was played a week ago, and white is Shilong, black is Xianglei, and both players are rated around 2500, and the game started d4, d5, c4, c6, knight f3, knight f6, knight c3, e6, and with bishop g5 and d takes c4 we have the Botvinnik variation of the Semislav defense. e4, and now h6 doesn't work because of bishop takes, queen takes, and bishop takes c4, which is allowing white a nice center and good development of the light pieces. So necessary for black here is b5. Then followed e5, and with h6 we are now into one of those crazy tactical lines which we see more and more often in chess theory. Bishop h4, g5, and the main line now is knight takes g5, h takes, bishop takes, knight bd7, e takes f6, and bishop b7. So a lot of tactics early on, but in the game Shilong deviates from this and plays bishop g3, and knight d5. The alternative was perhaps knight h5 to trade off the knight for the bishop, but knight d5 came, bishop e2, and here black played knight d7. The alternative was perhaps bishop b4 to be able to castle, but knight d7 was played, and white castled, and bishop b7, and for this bishop to have any future, black has to play c5. This is the main black plan. a4, and here we can note that the b4 doesn't work because of the lack of support of the c4 pawn. So after, for example, knight e4, then the c4 pawn is not defended. And so a6 is the move for black, and white now has to make a decision here. He has to find a good middle game plan, and I believe there are many possibilities for white here, and one possibility is to take on d5. This is clearly the least ambitious plan, because after c takes d5, then it does of course leave black with a very poor bishop on b7 and a static center, and white can hope for play on the king side with moves like h4, f4. But black has a dangerous plan of playing b4 and a5, giving him a majority on the queen side. So knight takes d5 is not so ambitious for white. Another plan is to leave the a8 h1 diagonal open and put the knight on a good square from where it eyes d6 and e6. The move is e4, knight e4, sorry. The problem here is that it's not easy to find a useful square for the other knight, which is furthermore blocking the f pawn, and f4 is surely a move white would like to play at some point. So it's not without problems to play knight e4. And I believe Shilong therefore reasoned that the best plan probably was to put the f3 knight on e4, which not only liberates the f pawn, it also gives Shilong the option of taking on d5 after black has played c5, as actually happens in the game. So let's have a look at that. So the move that Shilong played was knight d2, planning to put this knight on e4 instead. And then came queen b6, and then knight d to e4. And after the planned c5 from black, then Shilong took on d5, and bishop takes d5 and knight c3. And if Xianglei, the black player here, had tried to keep his bishop on the board, bishop b7, then Shilong could have tried d5, because after e takes, knight takes, and if, for example, bishop takes here, then queen takes d5 is very strong for white. The rook is threatened on a8, and bishop h5 is giving black some problems on f7. So already here we see that the uncastled black king could be a problem. And also, instead of bishop takes d5 in this position, if queen c6, then bishop f3, giving white some strong threats on the diagonal. So Zhang Lei had to accept the trade-off of his light squared bishop, so he played bishop g7. Shillong took the bishop, and here he plays bishop g4, which is an interesting move. White completely ignores the central pawns and goes for piece activity instead. And if here c takes d4, then I suspect Shillong was planning a takes b5, queen takes, and e6, which is in fact the same idea as we see in the game, because in the game here Zhang Lei played rook d8, and then came the very strong move e6, taking advantage of the dynamic center and the uncastled black king. And an option for black is of course to take the pawn, but it's very dangerous for black. Rook e1, and if he tries to defend the pawn, knight f8, then d takes c5, queen takes, bishop takes e6, knight takes, rook takes, king f7, and then white can actually sack a rook here, queen h5 check, king takes, rook e1 check, king d7, queen f7, king c8, and rook e7, with strong threats against the black king. But in the game, black didn't take on e6. Instead, he played knight f6. Then came a takes b5. And perhaps here, black should have tried to keep the a file closed with a move like queen takes b5, or perhaps rook a8. But in the game, he took on b5 here, and then came rook e1, and the black king is in all kinds of trouble. Black tried knight e4, which is very logical. He wants to close the e-file, but now follows a nice little sequence. E takes f7 check, king takes, queen f3 check. And after king g8, white is having a very dominant position, but he still has to find out how to continue from here. And I know that all chess players have tried to have a promising position, only to spoil it because he was not able to find the right continuation. But in this position, there are two plans leading to a winning position for white. The first is a deflection plan. Bishop c7 is a very strong move, deflecting the queen from the defense of the e6 square. So if queen takes c7 here, then bishop e6 check, king h7, sorry, queen f5, checkmate. So bishop c7 wins a rook. Another plan, and the second plan that is leading to a win, is the one that Shillong chose in the game, and this is the exchange sacrifice plan. Rook takes e4, d takes e4, queen takes e5 to e4, opening up all lines and all files for the white pieces. And the main threat now is bishop e6 check, followed by a quick checkmate or black losing the queen. So if c takes d4, for example, then bishop e6 check, and we see that this leads to a quick checkmate on f7. So instead, black played rook h7, because now there's a flight square on h8 for the black king. Bishop f5 is perhaps the most simple way to win the game, because this is simply winning a rook. The rook cannot go back to h8, because then we have this checkmate on e6. So king h8, bishop takes h7, c takes d4, bishop f5, queen f6, and with the piece up and all pieces are active, after rook a7, and combined with the poor black king safety, it's only logical that this game ends very soon. d3 followed, and why not finish off with another sack? Rook takes g7, because queen takes g7 would lose instantly to bishop e5. So instead d2 came, then came rook h7 check, king g8, bishop e6 check, king f8, and rook h8 check. And with mate just around the corner, Zhang Lei resigned the hopeless game. And I believe this was quite an interesting game with some good middle game planning and excellent execution against the uncastled black king. And I hope you enjoyed this game as well. And I hope to see you on my chess website at clausjensen.com. Bye bye for now.